Good evening and a warm welcome to today's session. I'm Sushmita Devisetti from Abroad. I hope everyone is safe and healthy. So just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the webinar, please type them in the Q&A section. Now, without further ado, we will turn to our topic, how to study in the US during the pandemic. Today, we have our expert panelists, Mr. Raghavendra Singh and Mr. Ankur Dhawan with us. Raghavendra is currently serving as a program manager, strategic global initiatives for South Asia at North Arizona University. Ankur is currently serving as the president of Upgrade Abroad program. Welcome to the session and over to you, Ankur.
Thanks, Rag, for joining us today. I know it's early morning for you, but still you made time for our students, our learners, who have a lot of questions. I think you would have seen the list of questions which we have, close to 50 odd questions we have already received, and many more will come. So I will request all the learners, if you have a question, please put it in a Q&A box rather than on chat box. Very difficult to otherwise monitor, but great. So let me first introduce, I think a lot of you would have seen our ads or somewhere on a website. You would have seen that this program which says that, okay, you can do BSc in computer science or applied computer science at Northern Arizona University, but you don't have to go there today. You can wait for 2 years, up to 2 years before you go there. And it fits very well with the times we are living in right now, given that COVID had delayed, our 12th exams are cancelled, actually not delayed, but the results are obviously delayed. They were supposed to come sometime in May, June. Now we're waiting for July end to know what the scores our students, our learners will get. During this time, I'm sure many of you would have planned, you would have applied to some US university, you would have got an entry there as well. But now given that this whole thing, this year, it looks tough for you to get a visa to go there. In those times, we don't want you to lose the year which this year will be because of COVID and start studying and earn credits from today onwards as soon as you join our program. So this is a partnership with Northern Arizona University and Chandigarh University, where students can start studying online the Bachelor of Computer Application course. They can study up to 2 years, and if they meet the GPA criteria, which Raghavendra will talk more about, they will get an entry into BSc Computer Science or BSc Applied Computer Science, their choice, which one they want to take, and complete the remaining 2 years with Northern Arizona University. And on that part, I think it's time to get Raghavendra in and say, okay, Raghavendra, first question, I think a lot of these guys will say. Now, we have been talking about Northern Arizona University a lot. I think whatever we say, I think it will not be as good as you can tell us about the university. You have been there for so long. I think you can give us the idea of what we're talking about Northern Arizona University.
Great. Thank you so much, Ankur. And, certainly thank you, Upgrad, for this wonderful opportunity to connect with, all the learners, the students, who are excited to learn more about this collaboration and certainly opportunity of studying abroad in the United States. We're obviously going through some really unprecedented times, but I believe strongly that it's, during such challenging times, it is also a time for innovation. And I think in terms of collaboration, what Northern Arizona University and Upgrad have come up with, essentially a 2+2 program with opportunities in applied computer science as well as in the computer science program is truly something what I would call innovation in times of these unprecedented challenges. And certainly I'm really happy to sort of talk about that, but also opportunities in general of studying in the United States in these COVID times and so on. In my own journey, I came to the United States, of course, 15 years back almost as an international student. So getting to work in international education, and certainly in this role, serving Northern Arizona University, it's always wonderful to connect with, fellow students in India, prospective students who are thinking about studying in the United States and who are eager and curious about the opportunities that one has in the US with everything that surrounds us. I'll start a little bit about, of course, Northern Arizona University. So we are a public research university, and we're established in the northern part of Arizona. We were established in the year 1899. And of course, we offer more than 150 academic programs, starting at your bachelor's level, several programs at the master's level, and now, of course, even many options, even at the PhD level, including several at the engineering side also. So it's truly an opportunity for our students to come here and not just sort of, focus on the academic part, but also get involved in many of the other experiences that a traditional US higher education system offers in terms of getting involved with projects, in terms of getting involved with student organizations, and also sort of building those career services opportunities as these students look for future CPT and OPT opportunities and eventually finding job here in the United States. And certainly, I think I'm proud to say that NAU excels in all of these things. And I say this as someone, who did come to the US as an international student. So understanding the expectations of what our Indian students are looking at when they come to the US, but sometimes even understanding the expectations of their parents, who often are, sponsoring them, supporting them in their endeavor to come to the US. So certainly I'm excited to talk about all of these opportunities and also what NAU has to offer to our Indian students.
Great. I think just to add on this point, which you mentioned that, okay, now we have innovated in this COVID year, so it looks very logical to study online. And I think last 1 year, students have studied online. I think one additional benefit of this program is that if you go to US today and do a 4-year education, the cost will be 4 times. And if you do 2 years in India and then you go to US, your cost is nearly half. So a lot of questions have been there. How do we go on a lower budget to US and complete their education? I think my answer to them, you are already getting a 50% scholarship from Raghavendra and NAU, that, okay, they are welcoming students who have studied 2 years in India to come and get the same degree which a 4-year student will have. So in a way, people who cannot afford 4 years of education in US are getting a 50% scholarship straight from the NAU, who have accepted this particular articulation, I'll say. Second, I think I want to another bring. So in terms of the eligibility criteria, I think, Raghavendra, people have asked me this question. What do I do in terms of extracurricular activities to get an offer letter from a US college? So I'm sure the people who are coming and you're asking this question, and these guys who are going to come to NAU, let's say 2 years down the line, they have additional 2 years to prepare themselves with the internships, with the opportunities. So what exactly do you advise them to do in this 2 years when they're studying in India to come to US?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And very important question, Ankur, and certainly an important point that you mentioned. A lot of times while students are still going through their board examination, their 12th grade examination, it's hard for them to focus, what comes next. They're rather often focused on their own board examination and certainly wanting to do well. So this certainly opportunity of getting started in India at the first 2 years, certainly cuts down the cost. But also gives you the opportunity to get started in terms of, starting this program in an online format. So you don't even have to leave your home. But at the same time, you're getting the same degree that you would get with a traditional 4-year degree if you came to NAU for the first year itself. So I think, cost is certainly a big benefit. The other benefit that, of course, students are looking at, particularly our international students coming from India, is opportunities to pursue the OPT, the optional practical training. So computer science being a STEM field, students are still able to pursue a 3-year OPT once they finish their degree. So the benefits, the good thing about this program still remains, but the cost factor, and in some ways, honestly, it gives you a better opportunity to prepare in those 2 years. One of the things that we talked about, of course, is when students show up to US consulates and embassy, I think the US consular officer really wants to have an understanding that the student, is going to the US to really pursue their academics, and they're focused on that. They genuinely have interest in this particular academic program at a certain university they're attending. So those 2 years really gives you the opportunity to connect with our colleagues here at NAU, our faculty. We're hoping that as things get better, we'll be able to come to India and, work with our team at UpGrad and, perhaps even travel and do in-person presentations and connect with our students. So I think it really is a great opportunity to understand the program in those 2 years. So as you show up for your visa appointment, you have a good comprehensive perspective on why did you start this program and why you're actually ending up going to NAU. And honestly, what it does is to the visa officer also emphasize the fact that this program can only be completed for you if you can actually come to NAU and finish that program. And then that actually adds, I would say, confidence in terms of certainly getting the visa. And we have seen this in many cases in the pandemic when students started in the online format and then went for their visa. The fact that they had already started their classes in an online format added to the confidence of the visa officer. The fact that these students were focused, they knew what they wanted to do, even during these challenging times, certainly made sure that they got their visa. In terms of admissions, what could a student do to be better prepared? One of the things, of course, I advise our students is reach out to us, connect with us. We'd be happy to connect you with our faculty, our current students, even though you may be in India doing these online courses through UpGrad and Chandigarh University. We want you to have that sort of experience of what a student is going through in terms of perhaps preparing with some courses, whether it's some coding courses or whether you're looking into a particular area of specialization, and how you can be better prepared when you come here for the second 2 years. The other fact that I always emphasize to our students is perhaps utilizing something like an admission essay. A lot of times, life happens, and perhaps you may be really good in your area of education, computer science, let's say, but perhaps due to some circumstances that surrounded you, your grades may have gone down for certain subjects in your 10th, 11th, or 12th board examination. So in those cases, putting something down in an admissions essay and making the case, the fact that you're a good student, you've been involved in perhaps extracurricular activities, in projects, but unfortunately, due to certain life circumstances, you weren't able to do that well, really gives us, the admission team, a larger perspective about you as a student. So that way, when we're actually going through the evaluation process, we're not just sort of focused on your grades. Certainly grades are important and we'll be looking at that, but we also get a larger holistic picture of you as a student, of what you want to do and what kind of background are you coming with up in terms of the extracurricular experience, but also what you're doing right now. So I think those first 2 years certainly gives you that opportunity to connect with us, to get to know us better, to get to connect with our students here, with our faculty, and really sort of prepare your path in a much more structured manner as you come here for the last 2 years at NAU to finish your education and your degree.
Very great. It's very, I think, exciting to know that you can do much more in this program by utilizing your time well during the first 2 years to do more than what you would have done straight into the campus. And I'm sure Iraq has mentioned this multiple times now, and we will be creating many opportunities for our students to interact with the faculty as well as existing students in NAU to get accustomed to the life when they go to NAU. Just one point, Rag, before we move to the next topic, is that what are the eligibility criteria? So I think just to give them clarity, is there a class 12 marks or CGPA you are expecting, or the expectation is in the Chandigarh University? What are the eligibility criteria for our students? Do they need to give SAT? I think one big question they will be having. Many of them would have given it already as they were thinking about going to US, but is SAT a mandatory requirement here?
So the good news is, Ankur, actually, we don't require the SAT, and I'll be very frank. As a student, I was never a big fan of tests because for somehow, I used to get kind of nervous and I didn't do quite well. So for us, the idea in this terms of admission evaluation is certainly to look at the overall grades. Again, in this case, as students are finishing their 2 years at Chandigarh University, we'll probably be focusing on those grades because those are the most recent grades, the most recent performance of the student that will give us an idea on how good the student is performing. Now, in certain areas, let's say if you haven't finished up to 24 credit hours at Chandigarh University, then we may ask to take a look at your 12th grade report card also. But I would say in majority cases, since you are finishing your 2 years at Chandigarh University, you would have completed more than 24 credit hours. And in that case, basically, we'll primarily be looking at your performance, your most recent performance at Chandigarh. And as I said, I think, always a good opportunity is to put down an admission essay. It's not a requirement, but it certainly gives us a larger holistic picture of who you are, what you're trying to do, and what exactly are your goals. But the good news is there is no SAT requirement. Yes, we do require the English language requirement in terms of admission, but the good option is that you can now pick and choose from any of the major English language proficiency tests. This could certainly be TOEFL, your IELTS, your Duolingo, your Pearson test. So there are tons of options in terms of the English language proficiency requirement fulfillment, and we would be happy to accept any one of these as a fulfilling criteria. So again, the admission process is very straightforward. We're primarily going to be focusing on your academic credits from Chandigarh University. But of course, if you don't have that many courses already completed, we may ask to take a look at your 12th grade. Now, one thing to consider there is that, in India, and I come from someone who was in the commerce stream, so I have an understanding of how the different streams are sort of, focused on arts, commerce, sciences. Now, it's certainly good to have a math or science background, but at the same time, I'm not going to discourage, and I would say most US higher education institutions will not discourage you, even if you come from a non-science background. The idea is that, you're here as a student, you're coming to learn, and we really want to focus on your credentials rather than going back and seeing what kind of academic stream did you choose, and then sort of, building a criteria based on that. So really, there's a lot more flexibility, even if you come from a commerce background and if you're going into this particular course at Chandigarh University, or if you have taken a certain numbers of science courses as compared to the others, we're far more flexible. The idea here is that you're coming to NAU to learn, and we don't want to take away that opportunity based on a decision that you had to make, on the academic stream, because a lot of our students, even coming from a different stream, may be interested in computer science, coding, artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and they may pick up many of these courses, perhaps through a massive open online course, a MOOC, or perhaps through an in-person computer class that they may have taken somewhere in India. So really, the opportunity is there, and we want to evaluate you and give you the best opportunity to pursue this going ahead.
Okay. One question I think we just to add, because I know there is a scholarship available to students who go to NAU after completing 2 years. Can you just give a little more detail about how they can avail that scholarship?
Absolutely. So we do have something called the International Excellence Award, which is our scholarship that is given through my office, which is the Center for International Education. Now, we understand that obviously cost is often a big factor as students, choose their options in terms of education abroad. And obviously, as Ankur has emphasized, the first 2 years being in India really cuts down on the overall cost of attendance, but you're still getting the same degree, still OPT, the same chance. But outside of that, we do also award our students with this scholarship opportunity. And the big focus for us on this scholarship is having a decent performance in your academics. So what we do in terms of evaluation, just to kind of give you an idea, by the way, we also do all of our evaluations in-house. So sometimes you may have heard that certain US universities may require external evaluations, perhaps utilizing different companies where students have to send their transcripts for those evaluations to take place. Not here at NAU. We do all of our evaluations, both at the undergraduate and graduate level in-house. So our international students do not have to spend that extra money in terms of those evaluations. So we'll take a look at your Chandigarh University's transcripts. We will evaluate that based on the US GPA scale, which happens to be a GPA scale of around 4.0. And in that regard, we're essentially looking, if you're looking in terms of scholarship, then our GPA scale needs to be somewhere around 3.0 or higher. So essentially, that's our biggest criteria in terms of the scholarship requirement based on your previous academic experience. And then, of course, in the admissions criteria, it's around 2.5 GPA. But of course, for scholarship, it goes a little higher in terms of around 3.0 or so. So I would say anything above, probably as close to 70%, or I would say even around that 65% would probably get you to the scholarship opportunity. Now, I always encourage students to do as good as they can in their academics. Don't just think that as the bar and keep focusing on that. But we really do have plenty of scholarships, and we make sure that our students, particularly our students coming from India, are eligible to get that scholarship, which deducts that tuition for $10,000. So it's not just for 1 year, it's actually for your entire period that you're here at NAU. Ideally, I'm assuming that would be about 2 years, depending on the courses that you finish at Chandigarh University. So this is going to be $10,000 per year, tuition award, and that certainly cuts down your further cost of attendance when you arrive here at NAU.
Great. So just to summarize, 50% scholarship you are getting anyway because you studied 2 years in India and coming 2 years in NAU. On top of that, 40% odd additional scholarship is given by NAU, because I think the fees, as I understand, is around $26,000 and total becomes 52,000. And if you're getting 20,000 out of that, it's close to 40% odd, another additional advantage you're getting. And it's not small amount, it's a pretty large amount, to be honest. Yeah. Just to add, I think people would like to know, and one question I clearly see that somebody has asked the question on ranking of NAU. I think on ranking, as well as I think what I understand from you, and you can tell me more about it, the undergraduate department, the engineering department is highly ranked when it comes to US universities. So can you give a little more detail about NAU and the undergrad department?
Absolutely, Ankur. So with the US News, which is obviously one of the prominent rankings that often we look at, and if you look at the 2021 rankings also, our College of Engineering specifically is ranked among the top 50 institutions here in the United States, which certainly adds a lot of prestige. In fact, overall, also, if you look at the university level, I would say one of the criteria that we often look at is the National Science Foundation. And I'll tell you why, because when you think about research grants, and I know there's a lot of master's students and students, some of them who may be even thinking about graduate school once they finish their bachelor's degree, you need an institution which is highly ranked with the National Science Foundation. That means that they're getting a lot of grants. So for example, the School of Informatics, Computing and Cyber Systems, where we have our computer science courses placed along with our data science courses, which we call informatics, essentially have a grant that they have around $5 million on an every yearly basis. And that means that that grant really helps our doctorate, our master's students, but certainly even creating more opportunities in terms of research lab, even for our undergraduate students, both at the junior and the senior level, which is your third and fourth year, to get involved in that research as well. So I think there's definitely opportunities, and certainly the rankings and the fact that we're among, I would say, the 200 top institutions in the United States ranked with the National Science Foundation. We're among the top 50 institutions, which is funded with NASA. We do a lot of different projects with them, including, the recent Mars rover project. So I think those are things that certainly indicate, the opportunities, in terms of connections for the university, but also what you're looking at in terms of funding opportunities as some of these undergraduate students look forward to pursuing a master's degree or perhaps even a PhD at some point of time. So yes.
There's one question, I think I'll just answer this. What are the subject prerequisites for this course? And I think Raghavan mentioned that if you're doing 2 years in CU, I think we are not going to look at your other class 12 transcripts as in detail. So whatever you are caught you will get taught in CU 2 years. That will be sufficient to meet your subject requirements. So yeah, I wanted to check. Yeah, go ahead.
And just to add what Ankur said, I think this articulation piece is so important. I'll just give you an example. So what happens is, even often within the United States, when we have transfer students, let's say if you're a student studying in the state of Florida, but now wants to transfer into an institution, let's say here at NAU in Arizona, sometimes the transfer of courses is extremely challenging because universities or institutions may not have the articulation piece in place. Now, the good thing here about this particular collaboration is that our faculty working with Chandigarh University and their faculty have gone through that articulation piece. So those set of courses that certainly our colleagues at UpGrad have promoted that you complete at Chandigarh University will 100% transfer to NAU. And it also means that by doing those courses, you're really finishing the prerequisites in terms of being prepared for coming to NAU and doing those third and fourth year courses. So you really are not required to do anything extra. Just focus on those courses, do well academically, and you'll be in good shape when you arrive here at NAU.
I just add one more question which has been there from Aaron, who's from Sri Lanka, who's joining us. His question is, how's the requirement for Sri Lanka is for the 12th grade? So just to answer, Aaron, as Raghavan clearly mentioned, there is not particular requirement as far as Class 12 is concerned to transfer to NAU, but Chandigarh University program expects you to at least have 50% or equivalent grade point marks when you apply for our course in Chandigarh University. So hope that clarifies your question. One thing which I want to say, Raghavan, you are being very modest. I think you're not talking much about the campus, and I have seen some videos and I have seen some of the pictures. I think, why don't we just give a little more detail about NAU campus? I think it's a beautiful campus if we can talk about.
Absolutely. So, some of you may, obviously have a good understanding of where we're located. So we're located in the state of Arizona. So if you look at from a geographical point of view, I'll start from the top and then sort of get down to the bottom. And a lot of times students ask me about job opportunities. And of course, if you look at geographically, we're located 2 hours from the city of Phoenix. Now, I'm sure a lot of you know about New York, LA, and Chicago. But if you actually look at which are among the top 5 cities in the US, Phoenix happens to be the 5th largest city now in the United States. And of course, New York, LA, Chicago, they grew almost about 100 years back. But Phoenix is really one of the major cities in terms of an economic growth. And part of that is being next to California, the state of California. There's a lot of opportunities with a lot of tech companies, semiconductor industries that are moving now to the city of Phoenix, which certainly provides our students a lot of opportunities and many of those employers that even show up to campus during our career fairs. Now, talking a little bit about our campus, of course, Flagstaff, here at NAU, our campus is basically more than 700 plus acres. So that's your campus itself. And because the campus is so large, we have our own sort of public transportation system, the shuttle service that the university runs. The campus size here, you're looking at a 22,000+ overall student population. And certainly I would say close to about 6 to 7% of that population is our international students, which represent more than 80+ countries. The good thing about being on a college campus here in the United States is that you essentially are living in, I would say, in a township of its own. You certainly have your classes, you have your residence hall, so you can live on campus. There's plenty of different options that you can choose from. We have close to about 30 different restaurants or dining hall options on campus itself. And we certainly do take into consideration everything from dietary restrictions, whether it's vegetarian food, vegan food, or even some of the other perspectives that our students may consider. So there's a lot of good options in terms of, living on campus for our undergraduate students who may decide to come to NAU. But at the same time, it's a very safe campus. We have our own, we're living in these pandemic times, so it's important to mention that we have our own health and learning center. So for example, for me, if I ever have to see a physician, a medical professional, I don't have to go to the hospital. I don't have to make an appointment outside. I can just walk into the campus's clinic and get to see a physician, get to do my blood test, get to do any other kinds of tests that I'm looking at. And that's been a big asset for our international students, particularly in these challenging times of COVID. We are doing testing initially, and then of course, providing vaccination and things of that. So I think those are kinds of resources which is important to our international students also. It's a very safe campus. Flagstaff in general, I would call it very much a college community. And that means we're very close to the downtown. We have a great public transportation system here in the city of Flagstaff. And apart from all of this, I'm really proud to say the fact that we have a very involved Indian Student Association here on campus. Even in these pandemic times, taking in all the precautions, we actually celebrated Holi, we celebrated Republic Day, we were able to celebrate Eid. So it's really a sort of a multicultural perspective that our Indian Student Association sort of brings in together. And of course, now we even have a cricket club. We call it the Jacks Cricket Club here. So, students often over the weekends, they'll get together and get to play cricket here on our South campus next to our engineering and business buildings, where we have a huge ground there. So really, the idea here is to bring everyone together. And certainly everyone is here to focus on academics and finding good opportunities as they graduate. But during that experience, during that journey, we're making sure that you have all the resources of connecting with other people, not just from India and South Asia, but also, domestic students, with other events that are happening on campus. And the exciting news is that going into this fall semester, which starts in about a month now in August, we're going to be 100% on campus. Life here in the US has basically gone back to essentially where we were before the pre-pandemic days. We had an excellent vaccination campaign here on campus itself, where students were given free of cost vaccinations, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson. There were many different options to choose from. And that really has meant that, this August, we will be going back in person on campus. And that's certainly an exciting moment for all of our students, faculty, and staff here at NAU. So certainly some exciting opportunities and definitely a great place to get your education in. But even when you look in terms of the geography, where we're located, a couple of hours from Phoenix, which happens to be now the 5th largest city, it really gives you the opportunity to connect with employers, find those internships or OPT opportunities, even as you graduate here from NAU.
Great. Just for information of other learners, because whether they come for masters or for the bachelor's, they need to think about the living cost in addition to tuition fees. How much would you suggest students should be planned to have the living cost for a year in US?
Sure. So that's a great question. So I'll give you an idea, because obviously I'm in touch with our students here, particularly our students from South Asia. So what happens is, as students start getting their visas here, when they're arriving here at NAU, we often connect them with both our incoming students, but also our current students, because a lot of our students, particularly many of our students at the graduate level, at the master's level, do live off campus. And being a college town, there's plenty of good places to live off campus. A lot of times what I recommend to our students, sometimes our senior students, certainly you have the option of living on campus. But if you do live off campus, and perhaps you're a group of, let's say, 4 or 5 students coming together, sharing a 2-bedroom apartment, it really brings down the cost a lot, both in terms of your rent, but also in terms of your, I would say, grocery expenses. So I would say perhaps you're looking somewhere, about $300 to $400 on a monthly basis when you're looking at your rent and groceries combined. So really, I think if you come together, and obviously there's, some really fancy apartments and some which are pretty decent, maybe not that fancy, where they may not have a spa or a pool, but still pretty decent for accommodations in terms for our international students. You really could cut down the cost by living with perhaps other international students or students from a different part of the world. And what we do provide is, there's listservs, there's Facebook groups in terms of looking for housing on campus. And for our students, of course, coming from South Asia, since we work very closely with them, we connect them with our current students and so on. But again, if you're a student who wants to live on campus, we have that option as well. And even those, there are different tiers that you can choose from. Living on campus, I would say, can be slightly more expensive, just because you're often choosing a meal plan on campus. But again, even in the meal plan, you can choose 1 meal plan a day, 2 meal plan a day, 3 meal plan a day, and perhaps you want to cook a little bit on yourself. There are common kitchens, even with the residence halls. And some of those residence halls rooms may even have a suite style apartment where you have a common kitchen between a couple of different bedrooms of your colleagues. So really lots of good options to choose from, depending on how much you want to spend, more or less. You really can choose those options sort of going ahead. Yeah.
So I have so many questions to ask, but I'll take some of the questions here as well. One very good question is asked by Manju. Are all Indian students, I think let's not call Indian students, but all students who are coming through this articulation route will be in the same class as the other student who started in year 1. So is there a difference between people who will be coming from this route or the people who are coming from the year one, will they be studying the same class, same course, same professors or not?
So Manju, that's an excellent question. And, I do want to sort of take this opportunity to sort of give a larger perspective. So what happens here is that in the US, you have something called electives. Certainly, there's some common courses that students get to choose. But outside of that, you also have some electives where you can essentially choose what courses you want to take. So yes, if you want, you can continue with the same cohort, and you can certainly meet with your academic advisor. And let's say if you have a friend, that you've made during those first 2 years at Chandigarh University, and you'd like to pick up the same courses, absolutely, you can certainly do that. Now, you don't have to be in those same classes. You can certainly choose a slightly different pathway. If there's a different specialization that you're interested in pursuing, you can utilize some of those electives in choosing some of those different courses. So you have an option of certainly continuing with those same friends that you may have started at Chandigarh University, but by no means you have to be in the same course. Sometimes what you have to understand also is that the same course may have few different sections also. So let's say if you are studying a course in data structures or computer networks or a course like that, there may be a few different sections, a few different faculty that might be teaching that same particular course. So you can really choose, sitting down with your academic advisor on a semester basis, what courses should I take next? And in terms of course, your day and timing and your schedule, they can really sort of build your sort of personal schedule going into that semester. So that's one thing that you will appreciate about the US higher education. It's not really set in stone. Students do have the option of picking and choosing their courses. There is definitely flexibility, both at the electives level or as you start focusing on your fourth year, what should be my capstone project. So really the idea here is that you sort of, pick and choose what you want to pursue eventually, perhaps for a master's degree or a certain kind of job that you may be looking at. And your academic advisor, your so-called navigator, will help you pick those courses. And if you want, you can certainly continue on that path with your friends that you may have started at Chandigarh University, or perhaps you could take a slightly different path as well as you go ahead.
Thanks a lot for answering this. One question which we were just talking about living costs, I have a related question there. A lot of students actually fund their living costs through the part-time work opportunities. And I'm sure US has certain rules around part-time work opportunities. Will a student who is coming to NAU, will he be able to get those opportunities? I think this is something which people will like to know.
Definitely. So I'll just kind of give you a good background in the general perspective, how many hours you can work, and then also talk a little bit about some of those part-time job opportunities here at NAU. So in terms of working here in the United States as an international student, and this is true not just for NAU, for any US higher education campus that you may attend, you can essentially work 20 hours per week. So that's certainly a good amount of time, just considering that you would still have 4 or perhaps 5 classes that you're focusing on also. So in the fall and spring semester, when most of your classes are going on, you can work up to basically 20 hours a week. Now, in the summer break, or let's say even in the winter break, when you don't have any classes, international students are allowed to work up to 40 hours per week if they're not taking any courses in the summer or winter break. So that really gives you the option of taking a break in the summer. And this summer, it was almost 2.5, 3 months. So you can essentially decide to work 40 hours a week. Here at NAU and Flagstaff, our minimum wage is essentially $15 per hour. So I would say majority of the jobs, almost 95 to 99% of our jobs on campus essentially pay our international students the same wage that we pay our domestic students, which is $15 per hour basically. So again, considering the fact that, let's say if you're working 20 hours a week, perhaps 80 hours in a given month, calculate that with $15 per hour, you certainly could take, if not the complete cost of living, I would say a big chunk of your cost of living. And I know some of our students from India, and again, I don't encourage you to sort of, focus on that side, but I know communicating with some of our students in India, particularly during the summer semester, because they can work 40 hours a week, you can really sort of save a little bit of that extra money that can be utilized, perhaps if you're traveling, going to see some friends or family in the US, or perhaps, if you're sending some money back home. So yes, in some ways, there are those opportunities where you can if not the complete cost of living, you can take out a big bulk of that cost of living here in the United States. Now, in Flagstaff here at NAU, there's plenty of part-time opportunities even here in the summer. Certainly, of course, if you're in the computer science program, you could work as a lot of our undergraduate students, our bachelor degree students, work as assistants to their professors. So you might be helping them in terms of grading or perhaps a different kind of research project. So that's an opportunity. You could be working at the library. If you're living in the residence halls, in the dorms or the hostels, you could be working as a residential hall assistant, an RA, and that basically takes care of all your costs and expenses. You could be working in our dining halls. My first job when I came to the US as an international student was working in the dining hall. And the good thing about that was certainly I was getting paid, but I was also getting paid food. Free food as I was working on those days. So again, helps you cut down those costs as well. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities in terms of finding jobs on campus. The way it works is every semester we have a part-time job fair when students arrive in the fall and spring semester. So you can take your resume, you can approach these different employees, these different departments on campus to find those part-time jobs. But we also utilize a job portal called Handshake, where students can basically go in, start looking for those job opportunities and find that. And I can tell you, I would say majority of our Indian students, if not all of them, or I should say all of our South Asian students and international students do work in some capacity on campus. And the idea here is that, it helps you sort of, keep yourself busy, but at the same time also, cut down some of those expenses in terms of accommodation and living also. So, yeah.
I think I will just take few questions on the masters. I think there are few questions I saw. One question which is coming on, do we have a course on data science? I mean, most of our learners actually who are looking at masters are looking for data science. So does
Definitely.
NAU offer a data science option?
Absolutely. So basically, we call it a slightly different name. We call it informatics. So within the School of Informatics, Computing and Cyber Systems, we offer many different kinds of specialization. There's, of course, the Masters in Computer Science, which has many different sort of specializations or tracks that you could focus on, from machine learning to cloud computing to areas such as cybersecurity and so on. And then, of course, you have the MS Informatics, which is more for folks who are looking at data analytics. So we call it informatics. Sometimes people tend to be a little bit confused, but absolutely we do have that particular specialization. And of course, then the other program that we also offer within that same school is in electrical engineering, because as you understand, there's a lot of different IT companies, particularly on the hardware manufacturing side. Intel's second largest unit happens to be here in the state of Arizona. And now, of course, there's a barrage of semiconductor industries that are really looking for people who have both the EE experience as along with some of that computer science background as well. And hence these three programs are come together. And then, of course, we even have a PhD program in the same school, which is more interdisciplinary in terms of the doctorate program. So really, you can go from your bachelor's to several options at the master's level, and then perhaps even pursue a PhD as well.
So though we have been discussing BSc Computer Science, I think there are a few questions which are asked here. If someone wants to do BBA in USA, does NAU offer that option? And are there like STEM courses in BBA which they can take?
Sure. So we do have a number of business programs. Unfortunately, we don't have STEM-based programs within the BBA or the business school, particularly. But there are a lot of other STEM-based programs that you could consider, at the undergraduate level, at the bachelor's level. There's certainly data science and informatics, and you could sort of, combine the two, or perhaps even do a major or minor. So let's say if you're doing a bachelor's in data science, you could do a minor in business. So essentially what the US higher education system does, it's kind of like choose your own adventure. So a lot of times students are divided. Parents may ask them to do engineering, but they may have their own interest in business or a different area. And that's where the major and minor combination works quite well, because by doing a bachelor's in data science or a different subject, let's say computer science, applied computer science, informatics, you still have the STEM major opportunity, but then you're also doing a business minor as well. But some of the courses, of course, that you would see in our business school is everything from information systems management, again, to many of the specialization from international business, and so on. So definitely a lot of options there within the business school with core programs, but no specific program which are on the STEM side. So what I would advise is do a computer science, data science, informatics bachelor's degree, and perhaps adding a minor, which could be in your area of interest, and that could be business also. And that way, you're still finishing a STEM program, but also getting the flavor and the experience and knowledge of the business courses also. So, yeah.
There was one question which I saw from Ujjain Tanzin. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Are we studying online course in India from USA? Just to clarify, Ujjain, that when you're studying in India, you're studying from Chandigarh University, and that course is online. But when you're studying in NAU, you're studying in a campus, and that is an on-campus face-to-face course. It's not an online course. So your question looked a little confusing. I thought I'll just clarify. Indian portion is online. US portion is going to be on campus with professors face-to-face. There was one question, another question, when will the student get I-20? So will it be before finishing their 2 years or the time of application for third year?
Sure. So it's a great question. And as you start your journey with UpGrad and Chandigarh University initially, we will offer you sort of a conditional admission letter in the sense that, we're welcoming you as part of the program, but there are certain conditions that you will be fulfilling in those first 2 years with UpGrad and Chandigarh University. Now, once you finish that part, the first 2 years in India, at that point of time, we'll basically go ahead and take a look at your academic performance and then offer you the final admission letter. And at that point of time, we will ask you to submit a few other documentation. So here in the United States, we have to follow the Department of Homeland Security regulations. And that means that we have to ask students for 1 year of annual attendance cost of basically their cost of attendance. So once you get your final admission letter and you submit to us your financial documents, perhaps your loan papers or your savings account paper and so on, at that point of time, we will offer you the I-20. So the I-20 is essentially a government document, and hence we have to make sure that we follow the government regulations before we go on to offer you the I-20. Once you have the I-20, of course, you can pay your CVIS fees and then go on to make an appointment at your nearest US consulate or embassy. So, yeah.
Great. I will take a question from Naisha Singh. Naisha is the name of my daughter, so I just got stuck to it. Where is Naisha coming from? But yeah, so Naisha is asking a very interesting question, Raghavan, for you. If I am an international athlete, I wish my daughter become an international athlete and want to get recruited on athletic scholarship. Is there an athletic scholarship offered by NAU?
So we do. So the good news is that we're actually a Division I team when it comes to NCAA in collegiate athletics. And we actually have about 15 teams that participate in those Division I athletics. In fact, we were quite excited, a couple of years back, and I was sharing with our colleagues here at UpGrad also. We had one of our students who actually was the under 16 India captain in basketball, and she was actually only the second female to come from India and play basketball at the Division I level. So absolutely, and we do have a number of international students representing different sports, from tennis to soccer to basketball, from a number of different countries. So certainly a lot of international students who participate and are part of our athletics. Now, in terms of athletic recruitment, it tends to be a little bit different. So what we usually do is, let's say if you reach out to us and if you're interested in a particular sport, we want to make sure that we have that sport, because sometimes there may be a certain sports that a particular university may not have. If we do, what we would do is we would get you in touch with the athletic department, the coaches essentially, so you can connect with them directly, because eventually the decision for collegiate athletics comes down to the athletic department, the coaches, and then they basically check into your performance, your background and things of that nature to make that sort of determination. So it's slightly different. And because it's not sort of an academic merit that the athletic background is based on, or the scholarship is based on. Certainly, they look at your grades, and grades are important, so don't get me wrong. But they will also take a look at your past performance and things of that nature. And then, of course, we certainly worked with them if they feel like this is a strong athlete that NAU could certainly utilize as part of one of their teams. And then, of course, the admission team works with our students to get them through the admission process and get them here. So absolutely, we are a Division I team when it comes to university athletics, and we certainly have many international students coming from different parts of the world representing us in, from golf to soccer to basketball to tennis and many others for sure. Yeah.
One question which I wanted to ask from the first start itself was on the jobs and the careers after computer science. So I know NAU must be helping the students to get the jobs and internships and other services. So can you just give us a little more about what is the career center in NAU?
Definitely. And, certainly as a former international student, I realize how important that particular factor is, particularly for our incoming international students and even parents, who are supporting these students in pursuing their journey here at NAU. So what we have here is we have a centralized NAU Career Services office where you can certainly get any kind of help in terms of building your resume, in terms of going through mock interviews, building your LinkedIn profile. They do a number of different workshops on career services. We invite a number of our alumni as well as employers to sort of conduct one-on-one workshops with our students. But then outside of that centralized office and career services, even individual colleges. So for example, the College of Engineering is a great example. One of my good friends, Jose, he is actually the director of career services specific to the College of Engineering. And what that means is that his office is focusing on career services needs specifically to our engineering students. Because again, career services could be very wide because you have students in business and hospitality and many other different fields looking at internships or job opportunities. So by having college level specific career services, it adds a little bit more to the specialty of things, because then the employers that they bring in for their career fairs, and engineering, I have to say, has two major career fairs happen, one in the fall semester, one in the spring semester. And their employers specifically come from those specific areas. Now, obviously, within engineering, you have different departments, but again, there is a little bit more focus specifically when it comes to engineering. So that's another thing that NAU does. In the past, we have done these excursion trips. So what happens is, let's say, we will pick a group of students, and this is something that often comes up from the international office, because we understand that some of the challenges in finding internships or jobs for international students can be a little bit more challenging because of the visa requirements, OPT, and things of that nature. So we will take our international students to many of these different offices in the city of Phoenix, help them connect with employers. Similarly, even in this spring semester, this last semester, we had an international career fair week. And the idea was bringing a number of different employers. We had a lot of different employers who actually started from India or came as international students, and now they're working in different firms from Oracle to Charles Schwab. Basically, we had the director of data analytics comes from Charles Schwab, which is a major sort of financial sector. And of course, you will realize that many of these financial sectors now have a lot of stake when it comes to the information technology sector as well. So it was wonderful to have people who started their journey both as immigrants and international students. And, when students ask me about what kind of opportunities does the US have, are there still good opportunities? There's very few countries in the world where you'll find CEOs of major corporations, not just Google and Microsoft, but, when you look at MasterCard, when you look at many other countries, you have the chairman of IBM who came from Bangladesh. That essentially highlights the great American story of, doesn't matter of who you are, where you come from, if you're an international student or immigrant, if you work hard, you can still climb the ladder and get to some of those top positions at those places. In fact, when you look at Northern Arizona University, even here at my own university, the Dean of College of Business, the Dean of College of Education, these are people who started their journey from South Asia, as international students. And I think that sort of highlights that there's certainly opportunities when it comes to jobs, and certainly international students and immigrants do quite well in those areas.
Great. One of the question which I see, and I think I just want to check with you, is there an option of medical in NAU? Do the student gets option of doing medical studies?
So we have some programs when it comes to certain medical areas. So I wouldn't say this would be, if you're looking at being a physician, then unfortunately not. And it does get a little complicated if you're thinking about pursuing or planning to become a doctor in the United States. I'll just kind of give you a general example of how that works. Usually most doctors in the US who are from Indian origin, so let's say these were people who were born and brought up in India and now are here doctors in the United States, they actually finish their MBBS in India and then sort of take the USMLE route of those examinations in coming to the US. Now, if you're someone who does their 12th grade and then wants to come and pursue, you have to do a bachelor's degree first. It could be a biology and one of those fields, then take the national MCAT examination and then try to get into a medical school, which can be a little bit more challenging. So if you actually meet with a lot of doctors who are from India, Indian origin in the United States, they actually took the other path of pursuing and becoming a physician. Now, there are other medical fields here in the US. So for example, we have a really good physical therapy program. Dr. Tarang Jain, who also happens to be from India, a very good friend of mine, is one of the leading faculty in that department. So yes, there are certain medical areas. Here at NAU, we have certain programs in nursing and physical therapy. That certainly is an opportunity for many people to consider. But again, there are different medical fields. So for example, within Arizona, there are other good public universities that may have programs in pharmacy and other areas as well. So yeah.
Good. I think one last question I will quickly answer. What is the joint degree and how to proceed further, I'm assuming? This is not a joint degree. I want to be very clear with everyone. This is not a joint degree. This is a degree. If you go to US, coming from Northern Arizona University, and it won't have Chandigarh University degree at that time because you are articulating from one course to another course, and the final course which you do will be giving you degree. So hope that clarifies. And how to proceed further? It's very. I have shared the link on the chat box. You guys can just go there and apply for the program. Once your application is done, you can go ahead and pay the block amount if you get offer letter. Otherwise, our counselor will call you and guide you how to take it forward. So that will be taken care of. Don't worry. One final question. I think it's already 8. I just take one more question for you. It's coming from Shobit. I have completed my MBA. Want to go for dual MBA in US. Is it okay? And also want to work along with the studies. How to go about it? So is the dual MBA allowed in US?
So it depends on the school. I would say, if I understood that right, Ankur, like the student has already done an MBA in India and would like to come here for a second MBA.
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, right now, Dr. Mahendra Joshi, who also happens to be originally from India, he's the coordinator of our MBA program, a very nice gentleman and faculty. And so, yeah, absolutely. I mean, for us, it certainly is an added bonus. The fact that you already have some background, work experience, education background, you're more than welcome to pursue that MBA program. So yes, you could certainly pursue that. And one interesting aspect, of course, our MBA program here is it is a 1-year program. So a lot of MBA programs in the US tend to be 2 years. Ours is a little bit more sort of hands-on intensive, and it tends to be a 1-year sort of MBA program. So again, you could certainly pursue that, and your work experience and prior education would certainly be quite beneficial in terms of admission process. Yeah.
I think one more question I'll answer quickly. Some of the people have asked, is 1 + 3 years possible? If someone wants to do 2 + 2, if he wants to do 1 + 3, Raghavendra, I think this is possible. Just if you want to highlight it.
Absolutely. I mean, you have the option of completing up to 2 years at Chandigarh University with UpGrad in India, because we definitely wanted to, provide the maximum courses that you could still do in India and then bring them to NAU. But yeah, absolutely. If you want to arrive earlier, if you want to finish, let's say 1 year of your courses and then come to NAU, Indeed. So you could certainly do that 1+3, and then the remaining courses, of course, in those 3 years, you'll be finishing at NAU. So we're pretty flexible. We certainly wanted to provide the opportunity for our students to sort of cut down that cost and take as many courses as they want in India, but quite flexible in terms of coming to NAU as even a 1+3 program. So yes.
All right. Thanks a lot for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And for some of the questions which I could not take, I'll just answer that. Don't worry. Our counselors will reach out to you and will answer. And though this whole conversation revolved around computer science mostly, don't worry. If you want to apply for any other course in NAU, our counselors will help you there as well. And if you want to pick up any other field, like we discussed, business or medical, I don't know, but data science or any other field where you believe that we believe that NAU has a good course to offer, we can help you out there as well. Thanks a lot, Raghav. I know it's coming to be your Independence Day weekend, so I'm sure you have plans to go around and have fun. Thanks a lot for joining us and answering queries. We'll continue to have these conversations for our learners' benefit as we go ahead.
Indeed. Great. Again, and thank you so much, Ankur, and to the team at Upgrad and to all the learners here. Again, I encourage Upgrad is a fantastic team and we're working very closely with them. So feel free to reach out to them if you're interested in this program or any other academic program at NAU. I'm in touch with Ankur and many other colleagues at Upgrad. So we're always happy to help and, share information from our side as well. So thank you again, all. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.